Okay, this one should be pretty short and sweet. I just wanted to talk a little bit about selection. So the idea of if statements, switch statements, that kind of thing. And essentially, these are pretty straightforward, right? You've got a condition you're going to test, and then a block of code you're either going to execute or skip or jump to based on that condition. So the most common formats are the single way, just an if condition, do this block, otherwise don't. The two-way, an if and else style of idea, where if this condition is true, do this block of code. If it's not, do this other block of code. Or the multi-way, where you've got a chain of if, else's, or you've got a switch statement or a select statement, something along those lines, where you've got a whole collection of different blocks of code, some kind of a condition for each, and you're going to do the first block whose condition evaluates to true. So the syntax, again, varies a lot from language to language, but the concepts are pretty similar. For the most part, the condition checks themselves are either a simple true-false, is this true or is it not? If so, do this. If not, do that. Or it's a pattern matching, which in a sense is still a kind of true-false. Does this variable or does this expression match some particular pattern? The nature of the checks, what you can actually do, depends on the different kinds of operators that are supported by the language, and of course the syntax is going to vary a lot, but you've seen a pretty decent collection of different possibilities by now. In terms of some of the optional stuff, if you've got something like a multi-way selection, so a switch type of statement, do you have to have a default case? Is there a default case? Is the default case mandatory? If you don't have a default case and you need it, right? Somebody comes up with a value of program, an expression evaluates to something that's not covered by the existing cases, what happens? Does it crash? Does it produce some kind of a warning? Does it just ignore it? Right? All things that you should probably be aware of when you're looking at handling of selection. And if you are going through supporting things like a switch statement, where there might be multiple different cases that match, how does the language handle them? Does it just do the first block of code that matches and then skip past the rest of them? Or does it go through and do each block whose condition matches? That's also an entirely valid possibility. In terms of the blocks themselves, can the blocks be just single individual statements, or does it have to be a delimited block? So for instance, do you have to have the curly brackets enclosing the statements in an if block or in an else block? Or can you get away with either way, either having a block of statements or having just one single statement C style? And of course, you've all seen the repercussions of with respect to maintenance if we do the C style, where we set it up and think, oh, well, I'm just going to have one single statement in there. I'll just stick it in for now. I don't need the curly brackets. And then later on, somebody comes in and throws a couple more statements in and doesn't realize the brackets aren't there. And of course, it doesn't behave correctly. And you get all sorts of weird and wonderful errors. But I think for the most part, the material on selection should be pretty intuitive. I just wanted to make sure you were thinking about some of the different possibilities there. All right, next time we'll pick up with loops.